tree that's particularly large is not capable of getting that size unless it forms these relationships with these fungus. It's called Flebia radiata, and it kind of just grows in these weird little circles, and it basically is just this crust that grows on this wood, and it's orange. And it doesn't have like gills or pores or anything. It just has kind of like, and the spores are just maturing right here on the surface, and over time when wind and stuff like that comes, or rain, then they just blow away in the wind, and that's how they're dispersed. So mushrooms are really just methods of spore dispersal. That is what they're for. They're pretty boring, honestly. Oh yeah, and they're very dainty and they're very brittle. They're called like brittle stems or something. So this is what the bottom side looks like, and you can see that it's a little bit,
It looks like that one.
it's very similar. So this is called Flebia tremulosa. The other one is Flebia radiata. A lot of people prefer common names, but the thing about mushrooms is that most mushrooms don't have common names because people don't care about them unless they're edible or anything like that. So this is what they feel like when they're really fresh, and you should feel it. It's gross. I mean, this one's kind of extra gross. They're usually not quite
So
this
then
gross.
extra fresh.
Yeah, these are really common edibles actually in Chinese hot and sour soup. This is all down here too. So this other thing is Trametes gibosa. I'll grab one just to show you what it looks like on the bottom. So there's another thing called Trametes lactinia that looks somewhat similar. It's like a white shelfy guy like this, and it's pretty hard, and they're both in Trametes. But the way that you can definitely always tell the difference is by looking at the bottom. So all of these are basically pores and gills. They're all just surfaces where the spores are maturing and falling down. So if it were dots, they would be tubes, circular tubes, where the spores are maturing inside the tube and then falling out using gravity. You know, like your ID book will ask you if something has pores or gills. It might be somewhere in between. You can touch any mushroom that you want, and you don't even have to wash your hands, but you should anyways because COVID.
It was the deadly gallery.
It's a good common name. If we're going to use a common name, just it'll kill you, and then it's genus. And that is what is left over of a veil that used to be covering the gills. The same as turkey tail, but it does not have as many colors. It's often just green or gray, and the green is just like over here where the green is usually algae more so than anything else, but I do think it does have some of its own green on it. Cerina unicolor with a C, C-E-R-R. And then the underside is kind of gray, and it actually has this sort of mazy toothed look. So sometimes instead of gills or pores, mushrooms will have what we call teeth, which are basically like stalactites or whatever. These little orange dots are fungus, yes. I wish I could pull one off, but I'm not going to because I promised. And the common name of this is eyelash cup because it's a little orange cup that basically just has black hairs around the outside edge of it. False turkey tail is the common name. So basically, we haven't found the turkey tail yet, but we will. This looks really similar to turkey tail on the top, but on the bottom it does not have any pores. It's just a flat parchment. There's no dot. So as you can see, these make their spores inside of them and then wait for wind or rain to basically just jostle them, and then the spores go all over the place. So they will try to basically grow really quickly, release their spores as quickly as they can, and as they're releasing those spores, as soon as they're released, the area that doesn't have spores anymore starts to turn to liquid. So from the edges up, it will slowly start to basically turn inky and black.
Getting a little started on that.
Kind of turning into black goopy stuff. Mushrooms often do what we call abort, which is basically they start growing their fruit and then something messes up, or sometimes it's just that messes up. Sometimes the gravity will get messed up, like if a log is turned or something, that'll make them abort, or too much sunshine will make them abort. Here's a mushroom. Okay. I don't know what it is. I'm not gonna pick it because there's only one. I don't know what it is. You can see that the edge here is actually violet colored, and it has teeth instead of pores or gills. So it has those like stalagmite looking resinosum, like resin, because they often get this like dark colored water on the top. It's just water basically, and it's just because mushrooms are made by, you know, pushing themselves via water, and they don't want to dry out because then they'll abort, so it just kind of keeps some water all over it. Basically the mushroom is just made by the fungus turning itself into that shape. That mushroom used to just be part of the mycelium. And, you know, once it rots away, the energy will go back to just being one of the mycelium. Ascocoryn, Ascocoryn. Ascocoryn. Yeah, I don't know what that is. No, that's not the same thing. You're gonna have to figure out how you want to use it. I usually go like that.
And did that tell you what?
That there are pores. There are a lot of fungi that don't produce mushrooms. No problem. There are a lot of fungi, for instance, that will just live inside of a tree, and its entire life cycle is just being that mycelium that we were talking about and living inside of a tree. There's a lot that we don't know about mushrooms. We are not particularly sure why some of them glow in the dark, even though quite a few of them do bioluminesce. We're not really sure why some of them are psychedelic. That's a really weird mystery. We don't know why some of them have amatoxins that take 6 days to kill people, because that's obviously not a very good strategy for keeping people from eating you if it takes that long. So basically, just because mushrooms are much more ephemeral than, like, for instance, plants or birds or something like that, we haven't done as much studying on them. And we just haven't spent the time to figure those things out, basically. We need to study them more, which is why I'm here. I'm getting people into mushrooms.